All right, so then what I thought I would do today then is to do a little bit of demonstration on some reporting options, how you can view the reports that are available, how you can create some reports yourself. And then just to let you know too that as far as reporting goes, we, if there's something specific that you're looking for that's not covered in the reports that you see already for your society, and you would like us to put something together for you, definitely reach out to Society Tech and we can investigate putting some reports together for you. A lot of times we find that a report that's requested by one society is something that we think would be useful for multiple societies, so we can definitely share those out and make those available to others as well. So when you go into your Salesforce view, then you're going to have a reports tab. If you don't see it already listed here, you can always click the plus sign here to view all tabs and then click the reports tab that way. Once you get into the reports tab, you're going to see just a couple of folders on the left-hand side. You won't see the number of reports folders that I have here, but you'll see some of your kind of personal folders, and then you'll also see a folder that's specific to your society. So let me see if I can find one in here that has just kind of the standard reports in here to show you what you kind of start out with. This is pretty close. We do have a certain number of reports that we push out for all societies when we do the onboarding process. So this is, I think this looks like it's all of them to me. So what these reports do is they try to replicate some of the reporting that's available on the society portal currently. So you can have some of the same data that you would see there using the predefined queries there. So you can see you've got things like your active charter holders. Looks like this one has an affiliate member report, CFA candidates, charter pendings, some of those that you would have seen before in the society portal again. And you'll see that for a number of these, there are two different versions. There's the standard version, the kind of the default version, and then there's a version that has EM in front of it. And that EM stands for email or email marketing. And basically the EM version is only going to include individuals who have said it's okay to contact them by email. So if you're already using Marketing Cloud, or if you plan to use Marketing Cloud in the future, the kind of email marketing component of the technology platform, that if the way that works is it uses your reports as the data source for your messages. So you create your message itself, and then you either create or select a report that has the individuals that you want to target with that message. So if you're doing that, you want to make sure that you're using one of these EM versions of those reports so that you're only pulling in individuals who have said it's okay to contact them by email. And I'll show you when we go to start building a report, I'll show you how you can how you can filter on that field to make sure that you're only pulling in those individuals there. You can see there are some reports here as well that are specific to some of the other components that are set up here within the technology system. So you've got event registration. So if you're using the Member Nation event tool, then this would pull in individuals who are registered for your Member Nation events there. Form responses also pulls from the events that are set up using Member Nation. So if you are collecting additional information during the registration process, so things like dietary restrictions or what name someone wants to use on their an event badge, then you can basically create a form or a questionnaire that will ask for those details, and then this form report would help you pull out that form and those form responses. So again, these are the standard reports that we push out for all societies. And when you drill into these, you can see a lot of the information that's available to you. So we'll take a look at this all badges report as an example. And one thing to note about badges in this sense, badges, the way that they're being used in this particular report, these are badges or kind of electronic tags. They're not a physical badge like you would have at an event or something like that. Badges in this sense are what are used to define how an individual is connected to the society. So you can see the badge names listed here. So there are 3 types of badges that are set up for all societies to cover those individuals who are shared contacts, so individuals who are shared with CFA Institute and the society. So those 3 badge types are going to be your member badge. So that's going to be an individual who's a member of your society as well as CFA Institute. There's a candidate badge. So that's going to be someone who's an active candidate. So they're currently registered for an upcoming exam, and they live, usually they will live in your society area. Or it could be that they have applied for membership to your society, so they kind of belong to your society in that sense. And then there's what's called the public badge, which the public badge is just kind of a way to designate that this person, again, belongs to your society for one reason or another. And the reason why they might belong to your society can vary. It could be because they are a member of your society, so they would, obviously that data would kind of belong to you. You'd be able to access that. It could be that they aren't a member yet, but they've applied for membership to your society. Again, that would be another individual who would be visible to you and to your society. If they aren't a member and they haven't applied for membership anywhere, they're still going to be assigned to a society. And generally speaking, that's going to be the society that's the closest to them on zip or postal codes. So again, an individual who has the public badge here, it's just indicating that for whatever reason that individual's data belongs to you and you're able to view it. So that's kind of the catch-all term for that public badge there. So with this particular report, we're pulling up basically all of the records that are visible to the Columbus Society in this particular example. So you can do a few different things. Well, I'll point out a few different things first of all with this particular list. So you can see the way that this one is kind of constructed. It's pulling in the person's first and last name, gender, their CFA Institute or their CFA person ID, their email address, their badge name or badge type, and then the contact ID. The contact ID is basically kind of a code that is what allows the Marketing Cloud emails that are sent out to pull in the information that's needed in order to have that email reach that specific person. So anytime you are, if you're creating a report that you want to use as your data source, you want to make sure that you're pulling in that contact ID. Let's see what else. So this report is also grouped by full name. So that way, if someone has multiple badges, so for example, this person has both a member badge and a public badge, so it's grouping them together under that person's name, and then you can see both badges listed there. So anytime you have one of these reports that we've created for you or a report that you've created, you can always take this report, use it as your starting point, and then create a modified version of that report if you would like. So in this particular example, as we've said, this report's pulling in anyone who has any kind of a badge belonging to the Columbus Society, as you can see here. It's filtering and pulling in anyone who has a badge type that contains Columbus in it. So if you wanted to pull in just individuals who had a specific Columbus badge rather than any badge for Columbus, what you could do is you could, again, use this as your starting point and do a save as. And then here we're going to say that we want to pull in just those who have the member badge on their record. And here you can provide a description if you want to, and then you can also designate where you want to save this report. So again, you would see just the list of those folders that you have access to. So if you want to save it to one of your personal folders instead of to the overall society folder, you can do that. And then if you do save and return to report, this will allow you, since I did a save as, this will allow me to edit the parameters of this new version of the report without deleting or changing the original report that's there. So then at this point, you can make any changes that you would like. If you click the Customize button here, it will let you it'll kind of go into edit mode so you can see what you're working on. On the left-hand side, you'll see all of the fields that are available based on the report type that's used. And you can see up at the top, the report type here is defined for you. And I'll show you, we do have some documentation on the Society Center that will show you what some of the different report types are. So we'll look at that in just a second. So again, based on which report type this report has used as its starting point, then that will define which fields are over here on the left-hand side. And anytime you want to find a particular field, you can start typing in any sort of parameters, and it will bring up anything that meets those criteria. So anything that has the word name in it has now been brought up in this filtered list, and you could decide any of these fields that you wanted to add to your report. And you can, if you just want to add them to the right-hand side, you can just double click and it'll add them there automatically. So let's see. We decided we wanted the middle name to be added. You could just double click and it will add it here, or you can then move that around as needed. You can also just drag and drop from the left to the right if you want to. You can, if there's a field that you decide you don't want here, you can just drag it over to the left to get rid of it. Like I said, you can move things around here. You can also, depending on the format that you're using, will determine some of the ways that you can display this data. Generally speaking, for kind of your basic reports, you would have either just tabular, which is more or less like an Excel spreadsheet. It's just rows and columns, and there's not any real grouping available there. Or you can use a summary report, which allows you to do some grouping. Because we're going to be changing and only pulling in one badge type, we might decide that we don't want this to necessarily be grouped anymore. So in that case, you can see that currently we're grouped on this full name. So if I drag that grouping up to the top so that it's no longer within the grouping area, then that will remove that grouping, and now it's just going to be a series of rows and columns. So now what we can do here is, well, I'll go ahead and save what I've got so far. I'm going to go ahead and run the report so I can, again, take a look and see what appears here. So if we decide that we want to pull in just everybody who has this particular badge type, I can grab that. We will edit our filter here, and we say that we want the badge name to contain that full name. So we'll put OK there. So again, this is just a way to use one of the existing reports as a starting point and create a version of that report that that's either more or less specific for whatever you're looking for. So this would be an example of something you could use if you wanted to send an email just to individuals with this particular member badge on their record. If this were for emailing purposes, though, you would also want to include that filter to pull out anybody who said not to contact them by email. So to do that, if we do our customize again, you can see here, if we type email in here, you can see there are a lot of different email opt-outs here. So the one that we want to look at here is just this this sort of general email opt-out. So I'm going to go ahead and pull it in here just so that we can see what it looks like. And we'll go ahead and run it just to take a look. I'm not sure if anybody's actually opted out on this group. It doesn't really look like it. But just to be on the safe side, in case someone later were to opt out, we'd want to make sure that we did not send them emails. So we'll go ahead and customize once more. We're going to add one more filter, and we're going to say we want the email opt-out to equal false, because we basically don't want them to have opted out. So you have to sort of think about the logic there. But so basically we're saying we want the email opt-out to equal false. We'll say OK, and you can see that here it's doing an and search, so it's looking for this badge name and the email opt-out equals false. If for your logic you wanted someone who met either this criteria or this criteria, you could always go in and change the filter logic so that it was one or two if you wanted to. So again, you have some flexibility there. So again, that's how you would kind of work with a report that already exists to modify it and get a more targeted group that you're looking for. But you can also start from scratch if you want to. So let me show you on the Society Center. If you go to Resources, Technology, Member Nation, and then the Training area, you can see all of the training materials here. And we have a section, reporting section here. So we've got what's called the Society Reports Playbook here. And what this will do is give you some information about some of the reporting information that can be pulled up. So a little bit about some of what we've kind of talked about here. So you can see this first part basically goes through and explains what all of the different standardized reports are, kind of defines them for you. And then down below, the second page talks about actually creating your own reports. So again, as I was saying, anytime you go to create a report, you're going to start with a report type. And the report types are, as it says here, they're grouped by category in folders. And there are a lot of different report types. It's kind of overwhelming when you go in there. So what we've tried to do here is we've tried to narrow down the different report types that are available into the ones that we thought would probably be most beneficial for societies or would be most useful for some of the different things that you would be pulling up. So let me show you kind of what this looks like if you go in to create a report. So back to our reports, kind of the home tab for the reports tab here. You can see if I click new report, it's going to bring up all of the different report type options. And again, they're all organized within these folders. So as this says here, 4 of the report types that are probably going to be useful are under this accounts and contacts category. So if we expand this, you can see all of those report types that are available there. And so there are 4 different ones that we've kind of highlighted here. So there's a contacts and accounts a report type, which is going to have, it's basically a contact report. So it's going to have information about individuals that you have contact information for. It's also going to include member candidate and program details, but it's basically just kind of contact information. It's not related to events or anything like that. It's just basically your standard contact information. The second report type that you may want to use at some point is the MN registrant list. So these are specifically related to individuals who've registered for events within Member Nation. So again, it's going to include contact and sort of customer relationship management information, but going to be specific to individuals registering for events within the system. It's also going to include some details specifically related to their event registration. So things like the registration date, the date of the event, prices of tickets that they've purchased, what kind of ticket they purchased. So again, some of those more specific event-related details. Then there's the FON or Fontiva attendee interview responses report type. So this again is going to be specific to individuals who've registered for events within Member Nation, but who have also provided information on forms. So again, during the registration process, you can create these forms that someone can fill out to provide your the dietary restrictions and badge names and things like that. So this particular report type is designed to pull in some of those form responses there. And then there's contacts and badges, which again is similar to contacts and accounts because it's going to give you the full contact information, and it's not necessarily specific to anybody who's registered for an event or anything like that. But what this also pulls in is badge information. So those badge types that we were talking about. So whether it's a member badge or a candidate badge. So again, this one's designed to show you contact information as well as badge details. And again, with any of these, you can always start typing in the name of one of these reports and do the quick find there to bring that up. So you can see when I typed in interview, it brought up the two different report types that had interview in the name there. So then the next category that we kind of highlight here is the other reports category, which is all the way down here at the bottom. And again, there's a whole bunch of these that you can see. And there's even more, if you click show more, they kind of go on forever. So the ones that we've kind of highlighted here, there's a report type called events and attendees and order lines. So again, this is specific to individuals who've registered for events created within MemberNation. But this is going to include some details about the event, such as the actual description of the event itself, waitlisting information, whether or not the event qualifies for CE credits. So again, this is not only pulling in contact details for people who have registered for the events, but it's pulling in specific details about the event itself. Then we've got the Fontiva attendees and registration items. So again, this is going to have a lot of the same event details, but it's also going to have, so it's going to pull in event details, contact information for those registered for the events, and also some of the actual registration details. So, sales order prices and ticket type prices and things like that. Then we've got sales orders, transactions, registration items. So again, this is going to have details on your sales orders and transactions and registrations. And it's going to include things like billing details, contact information, and sales order status. Then we've got Fontiva attendees and registration items. And actually, I think that one is a duplicate of this one. So looks like I just need to clean up that my report page here. And then the last one here is the MN registrant list based on attendees. So this one is similar to the one that we talked about way up here. But whereas this one up here is specific to the contact who's actually completed the registration online, this one down here is specific to the attendees. So you could have an example where you have someone someone asks their assistant to go in and register them for an event. So the assistant themselves may go in and, the assistant is the one who's actually registering, but they're registering on behalf of someone else. So they're inputting that person's information under the attendee fields. Or you could have someone who is purchasing multiple tickets for themselves and for several guests. And so that person who's doing the registration is the contact, but they may have these 3 different attendees that they're listing out by name. So this report is going to make sure that it's pulling in the details for all of the actual attendees and not just for the contact who's doing the actual registration there. So again, once you have kind of taken a look at this and decided which of these report types you think is going to be the one that's going to pull in the data that you want, then what you can do is, again, once you've selected your report type, actually let me find a little more specifics here. So we'll say that this is the report type we want to choose. We're going to click create. And it's going to give us kind of bare bones view here. This particular example is pulling in just attendee ID and registration ID. What you can do, if you want to just remove all columns and kind of start from scratch, you can do that. And then you can start going through and finding the information that you want to pull in to your report. So here I double clicked on the contact full name. Then you can, what else might we want to put in here? The event name. So this is the event that the person is registered for. Let's see. We'll pull in the ticket type that the person is purchasing. We're going to pull in the sale price. Again, we're just kind of doing this at random. Obviously, you would have a better idea of exactly what kind of data you're looking for in your whatever report you're trying to pull there. So once you've got some fields in there that you want to pull in, you can decide, again, if there are any specific filters that you're looking for. So we're going to, in this example, we're going to say that we want to pull in just individuals who registered for this specific event here. So we're going to say that we want to add a filter. And we want just individuals where the event name equals this. And then here, you have some other decisions to make. Sometimes you'll have the option to pull in, sometimes you can see you'll have the options to show either all attendees, or sometimes you have an option to show just your own attendees, sort of contact records that you own. So you always want to make sure that you, if you are looking for the full list, you want to make sure that you pull in all attendees there. And the other thing that you can see that's set here is this has got a created date of just the current quarter. So we're going to make sure that we pull in, we want where the created date is kind of all time. So it's not restricting it by date range. So once you've kind of got your parameters in there, then you can run the report, first of all, to make sure that you're seeing the full group, because sometimes when it's just first pulling up the report, it sometimes will show just a snapshot, so you won't see all of the records until you actually run the report. So if you take a look and you decide, yep, this looks like what I'm looking for, then you can do a save as, or in this case, we're really just saving it for the first time. I don't know if this is actually Columbus anymore, but so you can give your report a name, and again, decide which of your folders that you have access to you want to save this in. And then you can either just do a save, which would just kind of save and close that report down, or you can do save and return to report, and you can work some more on that. Again, at this point, if you suddenly thought, oh, I want to add different fields, or I want to add a different filter, you can always customize it again. You can completely delete a report if you decide you don't want it there after all. And then you can always export the details. So if you want to export this into Excel, you can always do that so that you can work with the data that way as well. So, any questions on any of the reporting features or anything else that you would like to talk about on today's call? All right. Sounds like we are probably okay. All right. So we'll be putting this recording out, for other societies to listen to. We'll continue to have these office hours periodically. So if you have any burning questions that occur to you, we can certainly talk about these on a later call if you'd like. And otherwise, thanks to all of you for listening in today. And I hope you have a good holiday season, and we'll talk to you in January.
Thanks, Megan. That was pretty helpful.
Good. Thank you. We'll talk to you later.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.